What's up, guys? So we had the opportunity to get early access on Sony's brand new cinema camera, the FX3. Now, this is not gonna be your typical, let's talk about specs, put it on charts. There's probably gonna be plenty of videos doing that. What we wanna do is something completely different, and that's putting it through a real world test. Putting it in the hands of a cinematographer to get feedback, do our own independent test, and see what this camera is all about. Now, this isn't a review, that will be coming later next week, so make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you guys don't miss out on that video. So sit back, relax, grab some popcorn. This is gonna be a fun one. Now, this camera shares a lot of the DNA from its older brothers like the Sony a7S III and also the FX6. In fact, the sensor technology is pretty much the same, which is not a bad thing. This is actually good because you'll be able to color match between all of these three cameras very easily, including even the FX9, because this actually ships with S-Cinetone as the default picture profile, which is fantastic. We filmed everything in S-Log3 to make sure that we get the most latitude, but to be able to cram all of this technology in such a small form factor, which is perfect for gimbal, drone, and run and gun setups, I think is awesome. This is why this camera is going to be very important for cinematographers, because of its weight and size. So check this out. I'm using the Kondor Blue Ultimate rig. This is actually my personal setup. This is what I use for all my cameras. So right now, if I'm going to be doing that boxing scene, this is great because it's on a shoulder pad. We can move it around. But what if I want to strip this down even further? So I'll demonstrate this. I can just set this here on the tripod, lock this into place. Now, if I just want to use the cage itself with the camera, I just disconnect the power source because it is being powered by a V-mount battery. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then really quickly here, I just loosen this up, and this is a side-loaded plate, which is fantastic. So now look at this. Boom. Now I'm just using the cage setup. Now, if I want to put this on a gimbal or even, fly this on a octocopter, I can even strip this down even further really quickly here. So I'm going to go ahead and just lock this in, side load, which I love. And then once I lock this into place, there's this little lever here that I just detach, and it has a little safety. Of course, take the Atomos out because we're not going to be using that. We're putting this on a gimbal. Push this little button. Look at this. Look at the versatility of that. But more importantly, this camera has 1/4-20 mounts throughout. So if I need to attach anything to this camera, I can quickly go from this baby setup that I can fly on a gimbal. It's got the Arca Swiss, and I can put this on a cage literally in a matter of seconds. Since we were pressed for time and had a small crew, many of the boxing scenes were shot using Sony's native E-mount glass, which actually ended up working in our favor because we were able to use autofocus, and that worked extremely well. Now, we were also able to mount our PL lenses from Masterbuilt just to give us more of a creative look, and I think that's why a lot of people are going to enjoy using a camera like this, because you're still able to get that cinema quality from the larger cameras, but in a smaller form factor. So I'm here with our director, cinematographer, Lucas Colombo, and we just finished filming this first scene. What are your thoughts on the camera so far?
Pretty cool, surprised because it's a tiny little camera and it's got the same sort of color look as the Venice, the FX9 series. So I would have been really tired doing all that handheld with the Venice, so having that in a compact piece is really nice. But right off the bat, the most interesting thing was probably the autofocus, because we're moving right on f2 on these Sony lenses, at 640 ISO, whatever, but we're like this close on the full frame and moving in and out with the boxing like this. Like, good luck for our focus puller to do that. I mean, he's pretty good, but that would have been like really tough. So, and we switched a bunch of different autofocus like modes. We did the eye tracking, and depending on what we were doing with the gloves, one would work better than the other, but at the end of the day, we got some sick shots with the focus, which was really cool and would have been hard otherwise. But yeah, dude, the dynamic range, because we got some straight up backlights coming into the camera, it's handling it really well. So I'm excited to see what the RAW looks like in post.
Now, like the Sony a7S III, the FX3 is capable of outputting a 16-bit RAW signal via HDMI. And what this allowed us to do is record ProRes RAW externally using an Atomos Ninja 5, but also record 10-bit 422 internally at the same time. And we were able to compare both internal and external RAW to see if there was any major differences. So what you're about to see is a short film that we put together, and let me know if you guys can spot the differences between the RAW recording and the internal 10-bit 422. I was actually shocked to see how well they blended together.
Son, be no place left to run, nowhere to hide. When the darkness begins to surround and the coldness creeps around your neck, tightening its grip, strangling.
You gotta move! He's killing you out there! Move!
But what you've given is not enough. Its appetite cannot be satisfied with what you have offered, what you have sacrificed. No, there's still something there, and it will not rest until it's devoured all that you have. You'll never be anything. It's over.
All right, time to go to work. Hey man, get up. Come on. Listen to me. I want you to remember who you are, what you're built for, and then I want you to kill him.
You tell yourself you've trained for this moment. You let the anger and resentment fuel your rage. And once you're there, alone, deep inside the cold, dark belly of the beast, just you and it. And your only weapon is the truth, and only the truth will set you free. So the question you must ask yourself, will you accept the lie? Are you what it says you are? Or do you believe the truth? Do you know who you are? And once you believe, what will you do to protect it?
So now that we put it through this real world production, these are some of my first impressions on the FX3. First of all, I love the form factor. The smaller body is very attractive. This is probably one of the smallest cinema cameras that you can buy today. I love the image quality that you can get out of this camera. The ProRes RAW, the flexibility that you have in post-production is just incredible. Also, the 10-bit internal 422 recording is also outstanding, to the point where I wouldn't really mind using it as opposed to only shooting in RAW, which is great. But there's also other things I don't like about the camera. For example, it lacks built-in ND filters. And I feel that if I had a Sony a7S III right now, it would be very hard for me to upgrade to this camera, even though technically this camera is a better film camera, just because there's not so much differences between the Sony a7S III and this. And I think Sony dropped the ball there. There's also other little things, not a deal breaker. For example, this uses shutter speed instead of shutter angle. I know they can fix that with a firmware update, but some of those things kind of annoy me, especially because this is a cinema camera. Other things that I do like, the magnesium body, it's more heavy duty. I love the quarter 20 mounts throughout. Now there's more things that I want to talk about. For example, Sony's top handle that includes 2 XLR inputs, but that's going to be in the full review. Now, if you guys like these full production tests, make sure to give it a like and also leave a comment down below. But more importantly, make sure that you guys support our video sponsor, which is Kondor Blue. They support us, they support the indie filmmaking community, us content creators, so make sure to check them out. I'm gonna leave links to all of the products that we used in the shoot down below in the description. Also wanna give a big thanks to the cast and crew. These videos would not be possible without their hard work and dedication. Really appreciate that. Teamwork makes the dream work. My name is Armando. Thanks again for watching, and you will catch me in the next one. Adios.
So my focus puller doesn't know when I'm moving because I'm intuitively just moving with the action front to back. And that focus is going to go unless there's an autofocus system or the focus puller knows what I'm about to do before I do it.
Yeah, none of this is choreographed.
It's all just intuitive and feeling the moment and the movement of the boxer.
So this is actually really interesting because we were able to retrofit this cage. This is from the Sony A7S III, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Sony A7S III. And what's really interesting is you can actually see the size difference. So it's actually not as tall as the A7S III. It's a little fatter too because this does have a cooling fan. Anyway, that's something that's obviously cool because of the fan, but yeah, it's a little chunkier, but it's a great looking camera.